We are going to get started, and I really appreciate you guys joining us today. This is the second in our series, Spring into Business, that we started doing virtual events. And today we're focused on navigating the chaos and coming out ahead. And we're really lucky to have with us Norman Leach. I met Norman when we were both part of the Downtown Rotary Club. And Norman's not only a business leader globally, but and gives back to the community on a regular basis, but he's also a historian and has written several history books. And he's going to be teaching in the School of Business starting next week, I believe, a couple of classes. So we're really lucky to have him. How this will go is we'll go through his presentation, and then I'll just ask you just to mute yourselves during the presentation, then unmute and fire away with questions. Okay, and so thank you, Norman.
No, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad to be a part of all of this. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for signing up. Cecile, you're still hearing me well and all the rest? The vagaries of Wi-Fi? Perfect. Yeah, I'm also watching the chat here, so if something happens, you can plug into the chat and let me know. If I disconnect or something, let me know. So everybody, welcome and thank you for joining me today. Hopefully some of you have had a chance to go on my LinkedIn profile and take a look at what I do. I have to admit that I'm of Ukrainian stock. Half of me is Ukrainian. And my Ukrainian grandfather told us that you should get lots of education and lots of experience because it's the only thing the government can't take from you. I'm a little too much to heart. I have a ton of experience. I've done a ton of things in my life, and like to bring that all together when I lecture or when I instruct in classrooms, etc. Storyteller. So if I tell some stories today, hope you'll be patient with me as we go through that. So I have a real interest in figuring out. Let's just go back for a second. I have a real interest in figuring out how we look ahead and how we make sure we're not causing a challenge. And so I chose to call this sort of session with you today is chaos and opportunity. My second language is Japanese, and the character for chaos and opportunity is the same. It's how you read it in context, what it means. So the same symbol can mean two completely different words, just simply read in context. And so I love this idea that out of chaos can come opportunity, but with opportunity also comes chaos. And we need to talk about those things today. And so I'm going to walk you through what I think is going to happen over the next month or so as we go through this chaos and what comes up after that and how we get through all of it. So as Cecile said, just because we're in this format of electronic, I tend to take questions as we go, but that may not work as well in this format. So we'll do the questions at the end. So please hang on to them, stay with us, and I'm happy to stay on the line as long as Cecile will let me stay. So I'm happy to do that. So let's go to the next slide then, Cecile. There's this, I certainly read the newspapers, if you watch the news, if you do anything in this last month or so, you know that what we've really obviously faced is this fear that's out there, that there is a fear of what we're into, where we're going, how we're going to get out of it, what it means for our businesses, what it means for us personally, all of those things. And I was talking to my own daughters and then talking to some of their friends and talking to our friends, and everyone seems lost where we should be going and what we should be doing. And the word that keeps coming up is, I'm afraid. Well, yes, we should be perhaps concerned about where things are going. We should be wondering where things are going. And so I put this old quote up. This is a long and old quote that just simply says, courage is not the absence of fear, but the control of it. Everyone feels fear. If you're feeling that, you're normal. If you're feeling disconnected, that's normal. You should be feeling some of those things because our entire world has been turned upside down. Very few of us work from home. Very few of us were in a lockdown. I've been through one other of these, and not for as long and not as severe. And what we do know is it will go away. At some point, we will return to some sense of normalcy, and we'll talk about that at the end. But that sense of normalcy is not going to be exactly what we went into this with. There will be change. And how we manage that change is the same as how we manage fear. We control it, we direct it, we focus it, and we move forward. And this is not some kind of mamby-pamby stuff. It is how we have to look at our businesses and how we have to look at our personal lives and take control of them at this time. So I'm going to give you 3 general areas and some tips under each area as we go through. So Cecile, we'll get you to go to the next slide, please. So Winston Churchill's quote, of course, never give in, never, 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 in nothing great or small, et cetera, et cetera. It's how I see the world. We are not going to give in to this. We're not going to curl up in a ball. We're not going to hide under our beds. We're going to get back to business, and we're going to get back to our school life, and we're going to get back to our personal lives, and it will come. So still, next one. Okay. So the first step is staying the course. If you are feeling alone, if you are feeling that things are out of control, that things aren't the way you want them to be, understand everybody is going through this with you. There is no one who is not feeling thrown off course by this. All the people around you. So if someone seems to be handling it better than you are, or you're handling it better than they are, just understand everyone is going through this, and we are going through it in a sense together, but separated. But we have to recognize that this will come to an end. At some point, we will go back to work, and we'll go back to classes, and we will go back to our personal lives. And we need to make sure that we haven't thrown that all away in the fear of what might be. The second step in this is that rash decisions lead to bad decisions. Any decision we make under the guise, no one ever makes a good decision when we are forced with this type of challenge. In my volunteer life, I'm an emergency medical technician. I help with ambulance and first aid and those kind of things. And the first thing they teach us is to calm down, assess the situation, and then move forward. No one is helpful if you are charging in and making bad decisions, whether it's in an accident scene or whether it's in your business. People will look to you. It's your business. It's your course life. People are going to look to you to make good decisions. And as a leader, you have to force yourself to slow down and breathe and take a moment to say, what is really going on here? Once you've made the decision, though, you need to stay the course. You need to make sure that you're not blowing in the winds of circumstance. Circumstances will always try to push us off our path, and it's not a good thing to do. And the final stage in this is to make sure you keep your team together. Now, if you are, I should be careful what I say here. I was working with a client recently who worried me because as the coronavirus sort of took hold, they kept making decisions that involved cutting the team. More and more people were told, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to lay you off. We're going to send you home. We don't know what you're going to do. We don't know if you're going to come back or not. And I've been approached by some of those team members that got laid off saying, what do I do? How do I move forward in all of this? Do I wait for the employer to come and tell me that we should go back? Do I just wait to see what's going to happen to me? And the reality is the team was given a sense of fear that they didn't need to have because of the way senior management operated. When you send your team away, they come back to you. The team is looking to stay together. They want to work together. Now, that doesn't matter if that's your friends. Keep them close. Make sure that you are when I say close, I know we can't be in the same room right now, but we can be on Skype, we can be on WebEx, we can be on different formats. We can reach out and touch our team and make sure that they know that when this is over, you're going to be there for them. So it doesn't matter if it's employees, doesn't matter if it's friends, doesn't matter if it's family. This is a time to stick together. It amazes me. I'm really surprised, actually, that my own email box has gone sort of dry over the last month. I would have thought people that I dealt with, people that I'd worked with, would keep reaching out through this, would make sure that we were all staying in touch. And there seems to be a pretty much a one-way flow from my computer to theirs, but they're not responding. And so the question is, why not? Well, if we think all we have to do is wait this out, pull the team back together and start again in whatever it is, May, June, July, whenever this is over, it will put you behind as a company, as an organization. Doesn't matter if you're a nonprofit, doesn't matter if you're a school. If you're not keeping that contact with your team, everything starts to come apart. Cecile, get the next slide, please. So, not the time to be a turd. When a turd feels threatened, it pulls in its arms, its legs, its head, and pulls and hides in the waits for everything to be finished. It's not the time to do that. I know it's really easy to binge watch things on Netflix or on Disney Plus or whatever it is, and to sort of realize that, where did the day go? I have a friend of mine who swears that her day is now broken down to whether she's wearing daytime pajamas or nighttime pajamas. And I keep telling her that that's really not the way you should do it. So what I really try to do is maintain a sense of normalcy, even if I'm working from home. So I'm at my desk at 8 o'clock. I do try to put on a shirt and a pair of pants instead of hitting there with my pajamas or my running shorts or whatever it is. I want to make sure that I'm keeping that same sort of rhythm that I would have had if I was going to work at an office, so that every time when this is over, all I have to do is shift back into, now I'm not doing it at home. And I have to admit, it's not too bad working from home. At least in my case, I get to work with my dogs at my feet. I'm in my home office, which is all my personal things. I'm kind of enjoying it, and I'm starting to wonder why I have an office somewhere else if I can still be productive. And so we don't want to hide. We don't want to sort of devolve back into daytime versus nighttime pajamas. This is the time to build relationships. It, sort of how we connections, and then all of a sudden they're cut off. We're not continuing them. So I'm working every day at reaching out to those people that I always said I should reach out to, but I don't have time. Oh, gee, I haven't talked to that person in a while. I should reach out and do that. And this is a great time to get on social media and follow people, read stuff, know what they're doing, so that when these relationships come out of it, who am I going to remember? If you're a vendor and you're selling to me and I have three choices, you're the one that came to me and said, hey, Norman, how are you? Not trying to sell you anything at this time. I just want to let you know your business. And when we all get out of this, we're going to be working together. And that person is much more likely to get my business than someone who 3 months from now says, well, now it's all over. We haven't called you before. We haven't talked to you. We haven't reached out to you, but can we get your money, please? And so we need to make sure that we are building those relationships. And as I say in the last one, it's that leverage that we get, the biggest asset we have. We've learned this now through all of this that we've gone through. If we haven't learned it, we have a problem. And what we should have learned is that life change on a dime. And the one thing that's consistent are those relationships that we have with people that we can come back to. We may have to deal with them differently. We may have to deal with them electronically. We may have to deal with them on the phone before we had a cup of coffee. Friend of mine in England on Friday nights calls together a party every Friday night. His friends together, the same guys that went to the pub every Friday night and had a beer, they're now doing it online. They get together electronically. They have a beer in their own kitchens. They talk like they would if they were around a pub table. The joy for me is I'm living in Edmonton. I can't get to a Friday night London pub, but I can do it electronically. So I'm drinking my beer in my living room, talking to my friends in England, all electronically. And you know what? We don't miss a beat. And really, truly, if you're going to get through this chaos, those people around you are the ones you want to hang on to, and you want to build relationships. Reach out to people through LinkedIn, reach out through whatever it takes to get a hold of new people and add them to your circle. Next slide, Cecile. So, about you folks, but one of those common refrains around my house and my office is, I don't have enough time. Time is getting away from me. Electronics, computers, and all these things were supposed to give us more leisure time. And I'm not sure if anybody else is finding it has, but it certainly hasn't in my world. Have I found more time because of computers? But this has given me more time to do the things that we should have done. So don't waste this time. I was following a thread on LinkedIn, and someone said the same thing. They said, well, you should use this time and take that course you've always wanted to, learn that foreign language you always wanted to, etc. And somebody else came and said, well, no, I think what you really should do, and I'm paraphrasing, is just grieve like someone's died and wrap yourselves in your own issues and leave the world alone for a while. And I guess either can work, but not for me. My choice is to move forward. And so I'm a marketing firm, and my marketing was suffering. There's no question. I was busy doing it for other people. There's an old expression that says it was like the cobbler, the shoemaker, that his kids didn't have any shoes. He was so busy making shoes for everybody else, he wasn't making shoes for his own kids. Mine was much like that. I had found my social media dropped off, and in fact, I was giving a lecture somewhere, and someone asked to see my Twitter page, and I said, yeah, I'd rather you not right now because it's pretty empty, which is a bad thing for a marketing guy to say. You really want to be leading from the front. So for me, this is a time to improve yourself and your business. Take that online course. Maybe I'm the only one in the world who does this, but when I do a file, I never name it properly. I always name it makes sense to me right at that moment, dump it in a folder, and then 3 months later, when I have to go and find it, I end up spending time I shouldn't looking for that file. So I've spent the last couple of days just renaming files that are logical so I can find them. Something I always said I should do, something will make my business better, something that will help us, but I never seem to find the time to do it. But it doesn't have to be just that kind of thing. My youngest daughter loves cooking. She's 15 and she loves cooking and baking. And I'm move my computer to the kitchen sometimes so I can watch her bake and talk with her as she's baking as I'm working, because it gets us a chance to do something together. She's baking. She's got YouTube on, following the recipes, and she's having a lot of fun, and I'm having a lot of fun being with my daughter. So it's not all about work. It's about finding new ways to do things. The last point that we sort of wrap up and then open up to questions is you need to become your own futurist. This stuff is predictable. Business problems are predictable. I work with hundreds of companies over my career, and it always amazes me when a business person tells me, I didn't see this coming. I didn't know this was going to happen to me. And I'll look at them and I'll say, but the signs were all there. I'll use an example. The oldest bookstore in Canada was in Halifax. 142 years. Location selling books in Canada, 142 years selling books. And they closed a few years ago. And I'll always remember the interview with the owner when someone said, what happened? What happened? And they said, Amazon happened. Amazon put me out of business with their online book ordering. And the reporter said, did you ever think about doing online orders yourself as a way to sell books? And he deadpan looked in the camera and said, no, because this all selling book thing is just a flash in the pan. It's going to go away. At the same time, he was putting the out of business sign up. This is predictable. So you need to become an information sponge. You need to be gathering information from everywhere you can and applying it to your business. Have you taken a look at what's happening? What's the new things that are happening? And often it comes not from reading something about your industry. I am in marketing, love reading about marketing and great sales stories and all of those things. But the challenge becomes we can get really blindsided by stuff coming from other industries. Who knew what was going to come from another industry might affect ours? So we need to make sure that you're looking at everything you can. I have news playing regularly. I read voraciously, follow people online, follow influencers online to say, what's coming in my industry that I need to tell my clients about so they know about it. And it always amazes me when people say, I didn't know our company was going out of business, and I can show them 3 or 4 months. I can show them 3 or 4 months of newspaper articles that prove that no, you could have seen it coming. Steph, I understand you have a question. Sorry, I'll stop talking. Steph, you have a question?
Steph?
Hello?
Oh, maybe not.
Hi. Okay. So we want to become our own futurists. Futurists are people who stand on stage and say, 5 years from now, this is where we're going to be. 10 years from now, this is where we're going to be. We follow them as though they are somehow special, if they can see the future. They don't see the future. They simply take the present, add it all together, and go out and say, what could we do? So if you follow me on any social media, you know I'm a fan of Walt Disney because I think he just saw things that people never saw, from Mickey Mouse to Disneyland. And he did that. He looked ahead and said, what are people going to want? And the hardest thing he had to do today, Disneyland seems like a no-brainer. Multi-billion-dollar corporation in Disney, billions of dollars flowing through parks, etc. But in 1955, when Walt Disney stepped out and said, I'm going to build a Disneyland, not a single bank would finance. Not a single bank saw the future that could have been Disney. And so he had to go and raise the funds privately. And the reality was he saw something the rest of us didn't. And by the way, I wasn't there in 1955. That's a euphemistic. We didn't see it. But the reality was he saw something that no one else saw, and that's what you need to be able to do. All right. Next slide. Okay. So this hangs in my office. This saying hangs in my office because I look at it every day. It says, doing new things is easy. Letting go of the old is really difficult. The challenge that we have is we will try new things like working from home and WebEx seminars and all of these things that we're going to do. And we'll say, that really worked. We could make that work. That was great. And then when this all goes away, we go back to doing things the way we did. I'm trying to figure out why there are times when you have to have that personal. No question. I'm of a generation that we want to shake hands and sit down and have a cup of coffee. I get that. But on the other hand, how many times have I driven half an hour across the city, fought for parking, paid $20 for parking to have a 20-minute meeting that I could have done this way? And so I have to change how we're doing things and make sure I don't have that reflex of going back to what we were doing before because it's easy, because it's the habit. And so if we're going to come out of this at the end with doing things better, we have to be willing to accept those things that work well, those things that make sense, do the things that we did before that make sense. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're not simply falling back into old habits and doing business the same old way, because our competitors aren't going to be. Our competitors are going to learn their lessons, and they are going to move ahead, and they're going to be the ones that survive. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to questions and see how we go, and we'll go from there. So questions from anybody?
You just have to unmute your mic because I've muted everybody and ask a question.
Hey Norman, it's Patrice.
Hey, Patrice.
I liked what you were saying about keeping connected with your team and just with your employees and everyone. I was just curious if you had any advice on kind of activities or things that we can do to keep each other engaged. Like obviously we can't get in person to do stuff, so maybe if you had any suggestions on stuff we could do either over a meeting or like team project type stuff we could do.
Sure. I mean, some of the stuff is, Patrice, just, it depends. Are you talking about school type stuff, business type stuff, or both?
This is mostly for my Enactus team.
Okay. And by the way, I was a big volunteer for Enactus in Calgary. So if you want to chat after, let's do that.
Yeah, for sure.
The reality is that what you want to do is find joint reasons to get together. And that doesn't mean it's 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning. We have to meet at 9 o'clock. It's, can you throw a lunch meeting where everybody eats lunch together, but in your own home sort of thing, and do your meeting over lunch, though you can't go out to the local Boston Pizza or whatever it is to meet. So find a reason to do that. We're currently reaching out to our team by just simply having small gifts sent to them to their house to say, hey, we're thinking about you. Make sure that, now when I say small, I mean, we're talking, cookies by George kind of stuff. Just stuff to say, hey, you are part of our team. If I went to work on a Friday morning in the office, I'd often come in with Timbits and a bucket of coffee and share with everybody before work started. So we're doing that occasionally. Just sending some stuff out and saying, hey, here's some coffee, here's some donuts on us. We're thinking about you, and it's kind of like it was before because we used to do that. So we're not finding brand new ways to do that. But the other thing is to find projects that people can do and then come back and report on. You're not going to be able to just sort of sit around necessarily and chit chat all the time. So I work with a lot of charities, and we're finding that people are taking projects, working on them, and then we get together and discuss how the project went. And so we kind of let people work at their own pace, but say there is a goal, there's a deadline that this has to be done by. And that motivates people to get it done. And then when we come together, we celebrate the success of it being finished. I don't know if that helps, but it's about trying to keep that normalcy as much as you can. And I find I'm using LinkedIn and things a lot more actively than I was before, though I was always active. But boy, I'm using it every day now to reach out to people.
That definitely did help. I'm just, obviously there was exam season for a little while, so struggling to get people to meet online. But now that that's over with, everyone's kind of a little more active in coming on to the meetings. And so other than like the deliverables, the little bit of projects that I've been kind of delegating and getting tasks for people to keep themselves busy with, I was just curious if there was anything for like keeping each other.
Give people a purpose, give them a purpose. It's really easy to get sucked into home. There's all these things to do, whether it's watching television or doing the laundry or whatever it is, taking the dog for a walk. There's lots of things to get sucked into. And then you realize, geez, I've only worked for an hour today. It's about creating a project. But what do you care? Honestly, what do you care if they do it from midnight to 2, as long as they meet the deadline? Then let them do that. Let them work at it at their own pace. So set those goals.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Thanks for kicking that door down, Patrice.
Norman. First.
Good to see you, Norman. I just have a question for you about, it was on one of your slides, it said, be your own futurist. And I'm just curious how you would personally encourage other people to be part of your vision for the future.
Well, I guess there's that's two different things, right? And good to see you, Andrew. It's two different. One is trying to convince people to be, to see your future. It's about telling, let's deal with that half first. It's about telling a compelling story that's clear. I literally have worked with hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs and business startups and things over time. And the thing I keep asking them is, so what? And that sounds cruel, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to say, I know you have your vision, Andrew. I have mine for my business. We all see it. We sleep it. We eat it. We drink it. We talk about it incessantly. We know it inside and out. And then you go to try and tell to someone else about it, and you wonder why they can't keep up with you. Well, because they've never heard the story before. It's not their dream. It's not their thing. They need to see it from the ground up, and they need to know how they're going to be a part of it. So you need to tell the story about what it is that you really want to do at the 30,000 foot level. It's, people will come to me with an idea and I'll say, so what do you want to do? Well, I'm going to build this building and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm going, no. What are you going to do in the building? Well, we're going to have this. And I'm going, but tell me about what it's going to look like and why it's going to be different. I point out to everyone who's starting a business, everyone who's building a new business, and this is just, let me finish before you turn me off there, Andrew, before you shut down. We don't need what you have. We got lots of restaurants, lots of dry cleaners, lots of auto body shops. We got lots of everything. There is very few needs in our world that aren't being met in a modern first world society. So the question is, what's going to make you stand apart? What's going to make you that thing that's different than everyone else? Because if you're just another auto body shop or just another shoe shine place, you're not probably going to make it. It's what is it that sets you apart? Well, we're going to have the best, whatever it is. Those of us who are guys will remember how long ago if you just think back, for a long time, the men's barbershop had died. You couldn't find a men's barbershop. The ones where you had sort of a true barbershop. They died because those guys didn't change. They assumed that we all wanted the red, white, and blue barbershop pole out front. But then people like Tommy Guns and others came along and said, we can do things differently. We don't have to be that sleepy place. We can be different. So they're a barbershop, pretty simple. Different way of doing it. And that's what you have to explain to people, Andrew. Why is it going to be different? And then how are they going to be involved? How are they going to feel part of your success? Here's what they're going to get out of that success. And part of that ties to the second half of the issue, which is knowing what's going on in your industry. What's the newest, coolest things that are going on? And can you come in right after the early adopters, right? The early adopters take all the risk. They go out there and they try something, and half the time it fails simply because it's too new, too fast. But if you can come in with an idea that says, I can move this, we have the plus or minus 10% rule. If you're going to change something, only change it 10%, or your customers might not follow you. So it's about knowing what's different and then applying it to your business.
Great answer. Thanks.
That helps.
For sure.
Anybody else? Or hearing some people drop off there, but
No, we still have the same number.
okay. Hearing some clicking sounds. Sorry, that's on my end then. Anybody else? Come on, folks. I'm easy to talk to. Anything you like. One of my principles when I'm teaching or doing seminar, I leave nothing behind. If you want to ask anything, I'm happy to talk about successes we've had, failures we've had, whatever it is.
Don't be shy.
If I could add to Andrew's question just about seeing the future, one of those things you want to be really careful about is that your vision isn't yours just because. So I'll give you an example. I was living in Japan way back when. I was living in Japan. I speak Japanese well, and a gentleman came to me and said, hey, I'd like you to have the rights to our company. You can use them in Canada. You can sell our product in Canada, and we'll sell you those rights for $1. We just want you to, and this is in the years, this was in 1980, 81. This is before the Japanese were traveling a lot and doing a lot of business. I was unique. I was a foreigner who could speak Japanese well, and they wanted me to rep their product. And I said, nope, we're not going to rep that product. That's the dumbest product I've ever heard of. And then he came back a couple of days later and said, look, if it's about the money, we'll give you all of North America. We'll give you Canada and the United States for $1 if you just sell our product for us. And I looked him in the eye and I said, nope, I am not going to sell that product because no Canadian is going to stand up in a bar and sing along to music on a television screen. Of course, it was karaoke. And of course, the reason I said no Canadian would stand up in a bar and do it is because I get paid not to sing. I hate singing. I'm embarrassed by singing. So I put my personal view on it and said, no one would sing. Had I chosen differently, I'd probably be doing the seminar from Tahiti. And so I've learned to figure out that we should never use our personal judgment to tell us what the marketplace is going to do. The marketplace will tell us what we're going to do. Everybody's being really quiet.
I know. They've all got their mics muted and nobody's saying anything.
By the way, I have a question.
Oop.
hear you. Something say something very, very soft.
Can you type your question and I'll answer it?
I was trying to ask a question. Can you put it in the chat?
Yes, Sue put a question in the chat.
Okay, there's Sue did. Yeah, thank you, Patrice. Do you see it?
No, I don't see it. Could you just read it out?
Yeah, I can. Okay, there's a couple things. First, we'll go to Sue because it was at the bottom. It says, any tips for the micromanagers out there on managing a remote workforce?
Yeah, I'm the exact opposite of a micromanager. My style is, so I get it. I think the challenge for micromanagers is that we feel that we're in control if we're doing those things, and we have to recognize, again, this is one of those things that's not going to go back to the same way it was. But certainly simply set the goals that you want people to meet. If you think that they need to have something done by 4 o'clock and it has to have X, Y, and Z components, then ask them to tell you as they finish a section, or ask them to give you a progress report at 2 o'clock. Have them call you rather than you calling them. Say, okay, I need to check in at 2 o'clock to see that we're on time and that we're going to make for 4. Can you just give me a quick call or a quick text and let me know that we are going to be on time? It is a challenge. There's no question, because I manage by walking around. I go and visit people, chat in their office, see how they're doing. And as I said earlier, I'm trying to reproduce that. But it's really easy to hit the text button 47 times in an hour and go, how you doing? How you doing? What's up? What's up? What's up? Well, you can't do that. So give them some space. Trust your people are going to do their job. You hired the best people. Let them do the best job they can. Check in on a prearranged schedule, and then you as a micromanager have to stick to that schedule. Because if you say you're going to check in at 2 and you check at 1:30, it looks like you don't believe your employees are doing their job, or your team is not doing their job. And that's a bad path to go down. Pretty soon those folks are looking for someone who trusts them. And so micromanagers have to learn to first micromanage themselves, keep their time, set up a calendar, translate that to everybody so that everybody knows what the calendar is, and then follow from there. And if you think that you need to, I do a lot of writing and a lot of reports, and I'm really try to be careful with grammar and spelling. And so I never tell somebody the deadline is noon. If it's noon, we talk about it and say it's noon the day before, so I have time to go through it and look through it and make sure it's going to be okay. It's my failing if I get right to 10 to 12, get it, and then realize there's things I want to change. That's on me as a manager. I didn't plan my day well enough.
Okay. We have a couple other questions in the chat. So there was one right before Sue's question that was longer. Oh my goodness. Kelly, we are for sure doing the small gifts to the team so they know we are thinking of them. We are doing lunch, coffee, cocktail times together virtually, working on projects together and at our own pace as well. We are planning scavenger hunts, including the team members and children that are at home, doing step challenge to keep us fit, and share daily and weekly pictures of family pets activities. Wow. We are sharing stories with each other and taking the time to phone each other, those we haven't had the time to reach out to before. Oh, so it's not a question. She's just saying what they're doing.
Well, that's great. It's great to hear. All of those are great ideas. Anything that your team accepts and wants to do, you can't to do something they wouldn't have done during office time, but if they are already of that mindset, then yeah, just keep doing it.
Yeah, and Katie has a question. What's your opinion with people that are aggressively inviting you to be part of their business, even though you didn't have that genuine connection beforehand?
Everybody's acting scared. This is one of my, everybody is acting scared. They want this to work, and everybody is terrified that every year I have to go in and see my bank manager, and I have to sort of justify our business and the lines of credit we have and the lines of credit we're expecting to use. And they gave me a call, and in these tough times, we really want to be careful that everything's going okay for you, and that you're in a really precarious position because you're running your own business. And I said, I'm not in a precarious position. You are. And it looked, we were on an online chat and it looked like I'd smacked him upside the head. And he said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I work for the bank. And I said, yes. And they can come in and lay you off with 2 weeks notice. Nothing you can do about it. They can just come in and say, you're gone. With my business, I can see what's coming and I have the chance to fix things before it gets to that place. So a lot of people got laid off that weren't expecting it. Just before we came on here, I was talking to a guy that had been working for a business for 15 years. He believed and that everything was going to be great. This hit, they told him he was laid off. He said, "So I come back when the virus is over." And they said, "No, we're done. We're not having you come back." For a man who's been there for 15 years and thought he was going to retire from that position, it was like being hit with a shovel. And so he was struggling today, and I was chatting with him about it. And so for people who are trying to start their own business or pull you into their business, it's acting out of fear. And that's what I say, that leads to rash decisions or bad decisions. So you shouldn't just use this opportunity to jump into everything that comes your way. And especially be careful, there's a lot of frauds out there. I get asked every day, literally every day, if I would act as an agent for a company that wants me to collect money from their customers here in Canada and send it back to name the country. It's an out and out scam, but every day I get a request and they're hoping that out of fear, you're going to grab it, whatever comes along and try to do it. So no, if you don't know the person, if you don't trust them personally, this is a bad time to be going off in a completely different direction. It's time to double down on those you know and those customers have been good to you. I know it seems trite, but it really is true that about 80% of our business comes from 20% of our customers. It's those repeat customers that we need to treat well, and we need to make sure we don't lose track of them. And we certainly don't need to be going into business with people that you don't know who have come in the middle of a crisis and said, hey, you have some money, invest in my business. And by the way, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've owned as many as 9 businesses, so I'm not afraid of risk. I just like to manage it. That's all.
Ladies, appreciating your.
Okay, I can see them now. They're popping up now. They were delayed, Cecilia. If anybody else has questions, I'll do what I can for you. You can try them out first if you want.
Yeah, you don't have to use chat. You can talk to us. We can network. We can see each other. That might be it for us. Oh, here we go. Nope.
Marvin? Let's see.
Was that all for the presentation today?
Unless there's questions, yeah.
Okay. I gotta pop off here. I have another meeting to go to, but thank you for the information. It was really helpful. I definitely connecting with you on LinkedIn, so we can talk about some inactive stuff later.
And just before you go, just so everybody knows, I am an active networker. So just please, if you're going to ask to join my LinkedIn page, just say, heard you speaking at the center lunch and learn, and I'll accept anybody who comes along because I believe in more the merrier.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Morgan and Norman. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. I will be sending out a short survey just to get your feedback, as I do after every event. Next week, we're hosting Joanne Padeco, and we're doing a session on connections to Silicon Valley. So if you're interested in that, we've got it on social media, and it's also on our website as well.
There's one more question just popped up.
Okay.
That or
Absolutely.
yeah. Just that sort of, what are your thoughts on the aftermath of the crisis? We've been through multiple crises like this. As a historian, I can list them for you. From economic downturns to, we've been through these. I think that there will be a basic shift. I think some companies will have figured out that they can have a dispersed workforce. And so we're going to see those workforces spread out, especially where they can do it. So there's going to be a requirement to do things that are different than before, especially for displaced workforce. That is, that people are working at their homes rather than coming to a big central office. I know when I'm working at home here, my challenge is computer repairs. The model is right now, if I want my computer fixed, I have to take it to Best Buy. I have to drop it off. They have to fix it. They have to return it. It's 2 weeks. And this is not a dig at Best Buy in any way, shape, or form. They're my years. But my computer's for 2 weeks. How can if my personal computer is my work computer, how can it be gone for 2 weeks? It's one thing if all I'm using it for is Netflix and, sending birthday wishes. But if I'm using my computer at home to earn a living, there's going to have to be a solution. I don't know if that's loaner computers. I don't know if that's more cloud-based. I don't know what that is. But at some point, we're going to have to visit just simple computer repairs at home. How are we going to get that done that we don't lose 2 weeks? So there will be a lot more people working from home. We're going to see a lot more people finding it comfortable to live in a state of slight suspension. That is, you might not know where the exact next job is coming from, but you'll know that your skills will get you there. And we're going to see a lot more people working for themselves rather than counting on a big company, because they're starting to recognize that big companies aren't there to protect them. But same big companies are recognizing that if they want to keep their very best employees, they're going to have to make working from home convenient. They're going to have to make sure that people can have this sort of change in lifestyle. And we're going to have to change how we train managers, that managers will have to be more mentors, more guidance, less control. And that's going to be the fundamental change, is how we interact with our employees. And so, yeah, there'll be, and I think, money, your question is, there'll be a change to digital currencies. We're talking Bitcoin and things. I think that's probably still, but how we do work and how we move money around the world, that's all going to change. That's just absolutely going to change. So with that, we're probably there, Cecile.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Norman, for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it. I have taped the session and we'll be posting it. And if anybody wants a copy of the slides, if you could just pop me an email and I will send them back to you. Everybody have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining us again. Thank you, Norman.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.